to get ready for the match week. Dr. Adebola Giwa is an endocrinologist. He wears several caps actually, and one of the most intriguing part of it to me is the way he dances. He's a great dancer as well. So I have to say that he's a family man. I will say that he's a very technologically savvy gentleman. He's a researcher. He's one of the best doctors that we have in ANPA Education Committee, who also keep us on tab with current development. So Dr. Adebola Giwa, over to you, sir. I'll be moderating the session. Please, if you have any question, just put it in the chat and then we'll take your question after his presentation. We'll leave some few minutes for the question, but we want to make this as succinct as possible. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Adebola Giwa, over to you.
Yes, hi, welcome. Thanks for coming out. I know this is a very interesting time for all of you, and thank you as the members of the Education Committee for that. A very nice introduction. I appreciate it. So getting right to it. So hopefully this will be something that you'll be posting at the end of this week. Your match into the specialty of your choice and the place of your choice. And that's the overall goal. Sometimes the process isn't always as straightforward for everybody. Some people, it's pretty traditional and you went through med school and this is just the next step in the process. For some people, they may have taken some time off in between training before medical school, maybe after medical school. Some people may have applied before in the past and didn't make it into the med. But everybody all kind of has different levels of chances into getting into the match. Depending on the kind of resources your school gives you, you may be familiar with what the match week entails, but I understand that there's also a good number of you guys who aren't traditional and may not have a medical school to kind of tell you what to expect. So the purpose of today's meeting is to go over what to expect during the whole residency application, just very quickly, but then specifically what happens during match week. We'll go through a detailed break day, and on the off chance that you maybe didn't match initially, there's a process called SOAP to kind of walk you through a process that some people may call the scramble, in which you have an opportunity, if you didn't initially make it through the matching algorithm, to still match with the program. And then we'll also go over strategies in regards to what you can do to best improve your chances of matching during the SOAP process. So all of you, this schedule calendar is probably pretty familiar. Registration opened, you submitted all your information, and then October 1st, back in my day, we call it the click day. You put in all your information, and that's the day that you click submit and you apply all the programs. Then between October 1st and January 31st, you got offers to interview. Some of you took them, some of you may have not. And then depending on what programs you interviewed in, you then also had the opportunity to start ranking the program starting February 3rd. Between February 3rd and March 5th, that was your chance to submit your rank order list. You needed to have submitted your order list March 5th. It's a very important deadline because if you don't do it, you won't be eligible for certain things. And I even sent out some reminders a few days before that to remind you guys to submit your rank order list so you didn't go through the whole last year for nothing. And match week generally starts Monday and ends on match day. So really quick, what is the match day algorithm, aka the matching algorithm? This was an algorithm that's initially was made to be more pro applicant, to give you guys the best chance of going to the program of your choice. Basically, you submit your rank list and the program submits their rank list. And if you're high enough on each other's list, you match together. And that match is a binding agreement. I think it's also kind of important to understand how this works. And it's usually can be a little complicated, but I found this really nice video that summarizes it with the NRMP. It's just a few minutes.
The NRMP uses a computerized mathematical algorithm to place applicants into residency and fellowship positions. At NRMP, we call it the matching algorithm, as we use it to match applicants to their most preferred programs. The algorithm is applicant proposing, meaning it initiates placement of an applicant into a program based on the choices made on the applicant's rank order list and not a program's rank order list. However, for a match to occur, both the applicant and program must rank each other. Once started, the algorithm attempts to match each applicant to the applicant's first choice. If that can't be guaranteed, the algorithm will try to match the applicant to the second choice, and so on, until the applicant is matched or all choices have been exhausted. Let's run a match to see how it works. 5 applicants, Arthur, Sunny, Joseph, Latha, and Darius, and 3 programs, Mercy, City, and General, have submitted rank order lists. Each program has 2 openings. Starting with Arthur, we see he ranked only City. Because the algorithm is applicant proposing, it will attempt to match Arthur to City. City has ranked Arthur second, and because there are no other tentative matches for City, Arthur is tentatively matched to City. Matches are considered tentative because an applicant who is matched to a program at one point in the matching process may be removed from the program later to make space for an applicant ranked higher by the program. Sunny also ranks City first, and the algorithm attempts to match her there. City ranks Sunny third. Because City has 1 opening left, Sunny is tentatively matched to City. Joseph also ranks City first. The algorithm attempts to match Joseph to City, but because both openings are tentatively matched to higher ranked applicants, Joseph can't match at City. The algorithm now attempts to match Joseph to his second ranked program, General. General has ranked Joseph third, and since there are no tentative matches for General yet, matched to General. Latha ranked Mercy first, but Mercy didn't rank Latha, so she can't match there. The algorithm moves to her second rank, City. City has ranked Latha, but City already has its 2 positions filled with more preferred applicants. She cannot match with City. The algorithm attempts to match Latha to her third rank, General, which has 1 unfilled position, so Latha tentatively matches with General. Finally, the algorithm attempts to match Darius. Darius is ranked City first, and City is ranked Darius first. Darius receives a confirmed match because he's the applicant most preferred by City. There's no chance he will be displaced later in the process. However, since City has only 2 openings, an applicant must be removed from City to make room for Darius. That applicant is Sunny, because she is the least preferred applicant on City's rank order list. The algorithm will now attempt to match Sunny to her second rank, Mercy. Mercy hasn't ranked Sunny, so she does not match to any program. The process is now complete, and the match is final. All applicants except Sunny have matched to their most preferred choices possible. Although all of Sunny's choices have been attempted, she didn't match at City because Darius and Arthur were ranked higher by City, and she couldn't match at Mercy because Mercy didn't rank her at all. City and General filled all of their positions, but Mercy is left with both positions unfilled. Mercy didn't use the match to its advantage because it submitted a short rank order list. Joseph, Latha, and Darius used the match to their advantage by ranking all acceptable programs at which they interviewed in a preferred order to maximize their chances of matching. Arthur took a real risk by ranking only City. Data showed that applicants with short lists have a higher likelihood of being unmatched. Remember, a match commitment is binding, which means an applicant is obligated to accept the position and begin training if a match occurs. To learn more about the matching algorithm, visit the NRMP website.
So hopefully that makes sense to a lot of you. Usually when people ask me back when I was doing the match, I just did a lot of hand waving and just said, there's a couple of, just say it's AI. And they use AI magic. And if you're high up on each other's list, you'll match with each other. Okay. So now that you know how the match works, I think the next thing that's important to know, I'm always a data-driven guy, is to know what kind of odds are you up against and what are the chances of you matching and matching to the place of your choice. So over here, I have the NRP's listing of the last year's match. So as you can see, of the around 45,000 applicants, most of the applicants were US medical students. The next highest group were non-US MGs, followed by US DOs, and there are a couple of other categories there as well. Everybody has a different journey in regards to how the interview season went for them, especially depending on what specialty you decided to apply into. How many applications were submitted, how many interviews were you offered, how many you actually went to. And over here just kind of gives you some of the demographics of the people who matched in the dark blue versus those who didn't match. The median number for the people who did match generally submitted around 30 applications, while those who didn't match, understandably, submitted more applications, around 50. Those who matched usually got around 15 interview offers. Those who didn't were somewhere around 7. Of those that received interviews, those that matched went to about 11 of them, while those who didn't, 6. And when it came to how many they ranked, both groups kind of, for the most part, ranked all the programs that they received interview offers for. But generally speaking, it kind of shows that your chances are a bit high. I didn't show it in this graph because there was a lot of other graphs that kind of display it. But the more places you applied into, the higher chances you had to match to a place, particularly because some people may have only applied to a few, like 1 or 2 or 3, and those people were shown to have a less likelihood to apply. Then looking at all the people that applied, how many of them actually matched? So for US seniors, both MD and DO, for the most part, in the first round, around 91 to 93% of them matched right there in the beginning. There are different ways to also look at this data. You can see in this yellow and dark green one, which also takes into account how many people matched when you include SOAP numbers as well, because as you can see, understandably, after the first group of matching, when you see the SOAP, more people can go into it. But then actually in some cases, there's a less number because some people actually don't necessarily decide to go into the SOAP process, may actually decide to pull out. But this mostly says that, generally speaking, US graduates, particularly those who are fourth-year medical students, generally have a bit of an easier time of matching compared to those who are not US citizens or maybe NGs. What are the chances of you getting your first round spot? Here is broken down both into US seniors, so that's fourth year MDs and DOs, and then those that were independent, which means that they're not fourth year medical students. So, whether they're IMGs or they graduated a couple of years ago. But it seems that those that were fourth year medical students, generally around a little less than 50% of them got their first pick, and then you can see slowly decreasing after that. And over here, about a third of people who were not fourth year medical students got their first pick, and then you can see the number kind of slowly decreasing after that. Okay. So now let's dive into Match Week. Match Week is an interesting time. Lots of mixed emotions, excitement, anxiety. What's going to happen with your future? I remember my Match Week. Generally speaking, I'm a low-key, chill kind of guy. And I actually forgot Match Week was coming up. And on the Monday of the Match Week, when people kind of find out if they matched or not, somebody from, I was in DMPT at the time, reached out to me. I think I called them up and I was asking them about some trip we were going to take to Nigeria. And they were like, hey, I'm going to be a doctor. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And it's like, oh, the emails went out. And I was like, oh, that was today. Great. So then I looked, it turned out I matched. And I was completely fine up until Friday. And then right before they started taking out and letting people know where they matched, I was like, wait, what if I didn't get my top choice? What if I didn't get my top 3 choices? What if I got my last top choice? So whether you match or not match, it can be filled with excitement or anxiety. And for the rest of the talk, we'll kind of divide match week into kind of big groups. One of them is Monday, which you find out whether you match or not. Monday through Thursday, which is mostly the SOAP process. And then Friday, which is match day. What is the SOAP? So the SOAP is different from the match. We just watched that video looking at the moves. The SOAP doesn't do the living. And we'll go over more detail on that later. But during the SOAP process, for those who didn't match, it's generally a couple of steps. The applicants, they find out whether or not they match. They apply to the programs using a specific application service designated by the program. Then the programs review the applications and they contact the people that they're interested in, and they make a rank list. When they contact the people, they will also have set up interviews. They'll make a rank list of their preferences for applicants. And then on Thursday, there will be 4 rounds where programs will submit their preference list, and applicants will have the opportunity to accept or decline. And then through these 4 rounds, the rest of the unfilled positions will be filled for the most part. Similarly to the match process, this is also a binding contract. So wherever you wind up accepting, if you go through the SOAP process, that's a binding contract. So who is eligible for the SOAP? So you don't have to apply any differently to register for the SOAP. As long as you registered in NRMP by March 5th, the deadline I was talking to you before, you'll be automatically registered to the SOAP if you qualify. And then if you didn't do that, the school, the NRMP, will withdraw your application, so you won't actually be in those SOAP cases. To participate, your school will have had to know that you're eligible to start residency in July of this year. So the different categories of this, one of them is you have to be unmatched. So there's actually fully or partially unmatched. So there's people who are fully unmatched. Those are people who apply and then maybe to one program and they didn't get in. There's also partially unmatched, which means for people who may be planning to do a prelim followed by an advanced program, may not have gotten into one or the other. So that's how you can be partially unmatched. And then U.S. students, your medical schools will verify eligibility. IMG, the ECFMG will verify your credentials. There are some exceptions to how the SOAP works. For those who are fully unmatched and SOAP eligible, you can choose to not participate in the SOAP if you didn't match, and choose to do things outside of it, outside of clinical residency. There are some rules about that. So if you plan to do that, you have to make sure that you are not going to apply for their residency program during the SOAP process, during match week. So let's start off with the beginning of match week, Monday. So at 10 a.m., this is what I was telling you about. Everybody will get an email, and the email will tell you, did you match? And you'll get an email, or you can go into the R3, which is in the NRMP system, and they'll tell you whether or not you matched. They won't tell you what program or specialty. They'll just say, hey, congratulations, you'll be going to a program, and we'll tell you on Friday. If you did not match, and if that's you, you can have a little celebration. You do it by yourself. Tell your mom, hey, I'm going to be a doctor. Technically you're going to be a doctor as long as you graduated. You can tell, hey, I'm going to be a resident, and you and your buddies can get down with your bad self. If you didn't match, the SOAP process then kind of officially begins. And what you're able to do in this first hour is that you'll have access to the list of unfilled programs in the system. And here's a screenshot of what that looks like when you log in. There'll be the match results, which will tell you that you didn't match, and then you can click here to see how the unfilled programs look like. And then one other interesting category as well. I know I said if you match, they won't tell you where your program is. But if you're partially unmatched, or if your couple's matching and maybe your partner didn't match, they'll actually tell you what city, state, or zip code of the part that you did match is in to help facilitate that process that you're going through the SOAP. So in this first hour, you'll find out if you match, and then you'll see what programs are available. And then at 11 o'clock, you can start contacting the application services designated by your program if you have any questions. Application service. So for most of the people, that'll be ERES. So it's nothing new. If you are applying to, if you decide to maybe switch into plastic surgery or OB-GYN or the other way around, you'll have to be familiar with some of these other applications, because those for the plastic surgery match, they use central application, and those for OB-GYN use residency. So if, for example, you initially applied to OB-GYN, did not match, you'll then need to then also apply through ERES. And if you apply through ERES, maybe family medicine, pediatrics, any of the other big specialties, and now you want to, hey, let me try my hand at OB-GYN or plastic surgery, then you'll need to set up an account over here, over there. So one of the important things to realize is on this day, you can only apply to the programs through the application service. You're not allowed to actually contact the programs and say, hey, can I get an interview? And you also cannot have somebody, a mentor, somebody at the program who they call a representative, reach out to that program on your behalf. The only times you can do that is if the program contacts you. So just be aware of that, because historically, if you're identified as a match violator, programs could rat you out, sniffing some people. And if you're identified as a match violator, there's some potential ramifications that can bar you from future NRMP matches. So if you do have to go through the SOAP process, just kind of outline some things to note about that. So, I showed you on a previous slide that you'll see the list of programs that are unfilled. And here's kind of a screenshot of what that may look like. You'll have it by specialties, and you'll see how many unfilled programs and how many positions. So you can go through there and choose them how you like. One thing that's interesting, though, is you're responsible to know what programs you can apply to. It's nothing too crazy, but there's different categories of programs: categorical, primary care, and they're all noted over here next to the specialty. This mostly goes for if you are maybe applying for a prelim or an advanced. So it's important that if, for example, maybe you're partially matched to OB-GYN and you have a prelim year that you didn't match to, you're not eligible to then apply to a whole different specialty. You're only eligible to apply to the prelims because that's the part that you did not match with. So it's important to keep that in mind. And here I have different things. When you go into this system, once you know that in the NRMP, which is where you find out whether you match or not, you'll see all the unfilled programs. From there, you would choose which programs you want to apply to. Then you'll then go to the application service, which I told you was either the NRMP or central application or residency case. Once you get there, you'll be able to apply to up to 47 different programs. Once you click the button, you can't withdraw. If you are staying on the same program, if you already did the first round and say ERAS and you didn't match, you do not have to pay a new fee. But if you go from ERAS and now you're going to apply to OB-GYN or plastics, you haven't done that before, there is a $99 fee. Outside of that, you are free to actually apply to a different specialty if you are only doing If you applied to surgery, now maybe you're thinking pediatrics, you're fine to do that. And you can apply to programs that you previously applied to. So if you applied to a PEDS program and you didn't match at Duke during the SOAP, you can reapply to Duke again just to make up a name program. So that is day one, Monday. So now we'll get to application days. Basically Tuesday and Wednesday. So starting Tuesday, 8 o'clock, program can start contacting applicants once they get your application and start interviewing. Later on that morning, program can start making their preference list in the system. And Wednesday is also dedicated to doing that as well. And to kind of outline how the application process works, I won't go through it in super detail, but I'll show you some things, high level, what you can expect that you'll need to do, and maybe some of the screens that you may see. So as I said already, you find out you don't match, you go in NRMP, you take a look at the list of unfilled programs to figure out what your strategy will be for where you want to apply to. Then you go to the service program. You can then search for the programs there. They'll have a couple of different sorting options you can use. You can select the training track. Then you save the programs. Then you select the program that you want to apply to. Then you can assign documents to it, and we'll go over what those are in a little bit. And then you apply. So here are some screens that you may see. If you didn't match, you'll be eligible to go into SOAP, and this is where you click whether or not you want to do it or maybe follow a different road. Then in the NRMP, you can go and search programs by specialty, state, program, etc. And then as I said over here, you only have 45 programs you can apply to. You can add the programs over here and note which ones you saved over there. And they'll also keep track of how many programs you clicked of your 45. There's different documents you can upload, including your personal statement. You can upload new letters of recommendations. And there's also additional documents as well, such as photos, new transcript, new grades, new evaluation, and other things that you think may make you more competitive this go around of the match. And this is how the page looks like, where you can select the programs and then choose what documents you want to assign to them. So that's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So now it's Thursday. This is basically what they call offer rounds, offer days. And what it basically is there are 4 rounds on this day with 2 hours for each round. During that time, you go into the R3 system, which is in the NRMP. You'll get an email, and you'll also get a notification once you get into the R3 system that you have received an offer. You can receive multiple offers, and then there you can choose to accept, reject, or just not respond at all. On the program side, they can only send offers to the number of applicants that they have unfilled spots. So basically, if there's a program, if they have 2 unfilled spots, they'll only send out 2 offers, which is something that's different from the regular algorithm where they can send more or less than that. If they send an offer and somebody rejects it, they cannot send an offer to them and say the next round. And this happens 4 times. So 9 o'clock, you log in, you see your offers, you can accept, reject, or let expire, or maybe you didn't get any offers. Then between 11 and 12, the programs go back. They say, hey, all of our spots are filled. That's it for that program. Or they say, hey, we had 5 spots. Now we only have 3 spots. So then they'll put out another list of offers. And then the same thing happens at around 2, between 12 and 2 o'clock. And then it happens again, et cetera, until they do a total of 4 rounds. And for the most part, most of the spots will be filled. So some screenshots of how this may look like. You'll go in and then you'll see if you have pending offers, and then over there you can accept or reject or expire depending on what round you're in. Here's what it looks like on this side, where you reject or accept it. So, I just always like looking at the data as well. So, here's kind of how it looks like per round. So just kind of high level, most spots will be filled in the first round. Over here is of all the unfilled positions, this is how many were accepted, this is how many were rejected, this is how many expired. And then it's done in half. Actually more than half, and it splits to less than half each time, almost a third, until you get to this one. The one thing to note also is that some of them expired. So make sure if you're checking your emails that day, I don't know if these people were just kind of busy, they could be having clinical rounds, or maybe their internet wasn't working, but it's good to be at a place where you can respond to this. So speaking of that, some tips of what you can do to try and make sure you are as competitive as possible during this application SOAP process. So there's things you can actually do right now, and they're open, I think, up until like the week before SOAP starts. So make sure you can log into your AAMC account. I know some of you may have been a long time, so you don't want to be last minute forgetting your username and password, or it's not working, you have to call AAMC and all that stuff. So make sure you have that stuff figured out. Certify and submit your MyERAS application if you didn't before. Your personal information section, and then NRMP, make sure all that stuff is updated. If there's anything that you need to do, update it at that time. Any newer supporting documents, you can think about, hey, maybe since then, maybe one of the issues that you think may have caused you not to match in the first place was maybe a bad grade. If you have some updated grade that you want to give them, you can upload it beforehand. If there's any performance evaluations that could help you, you don't need new letters of recommendations, but if you have one that you want to do, you can submit it then. And this will be particularly useful if you're also changing specialties. If maybe you didn't take one of the STEP exams, you can load that. There's a little fee for that. Personal statements, if you're thinking about doing a different specialty, or maybe you want to update something, you can do that. Photo, maybe you had some boogers in the last one, or your hair was a mess, and you think that that may have caused an issue. You can update that. The other thing, you want to make sure these things are polished. Maybe there was a bunch of grammatical mistakes in your personal statement. You want to, especially during this round, make sure you put your best foot forward. During application days, I went into different websites for the different programs to see some tips that I thought may be useful. So OB-GYN, for example, I saw that if you did not get into an OB-GYN program and maybe you're thinking about applying the following year, or you want to do a prelim year, does it matter what kind of prelim that you do? Most program directors recommend doing a surge prelim if you plan to apply to OB-GYN. Letters of recommendation, I kind of told you don't need new ones, but if you're doing a new specialty, it is recommended to have a letter of recommendation for the new specialty that you're applying into. Be prepared for interviews. Maybe you're not a great interviewer. Maybe that may have been an issue. So prepare. These interviews are gonna be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and there's actually some that can actually happen Thursday, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But they're gonna be pretty quick. There may be even 15 to 30 minutes. So you won't have a whole lot of time. It won't be a whole long day kind of thing. It'll probably just be one interview with a panel or just one person. So be prepared with your elevator pitch, common interview day questions. Be sure you show a genuine interest. I know it may be a disheartening time for some people, but you gotta, you know, get that pep in your step and show that you really want to be there. Insightful questions. A lot of these things were kind of covered in our previous workshops. So if you need help, reach out to us and we can give you some tips on how you can prepare for these interviews. Some people have wondered, hey, should I hold back on some applications and only apply if I don't get what I want in the first round? Because technically you could send in applications on the day of rounds, but it's unlikely that programs are going to be looking at that when they're going to be interviewing, where they're going to be waiting on other offers and they only kind of have an hour in between to make their rank list. So it's best if you're interested in something, you want a chance, just do it on the previous days. Don't wait till Thursday. When you accept or reject offers, they're going to ask you for your password. It's kind of like your signature. So don't just expect your browser to have saved your password. You're going to have to retype it. So make sure you know what that is. You don't want last minute. Oh, you're down at the wire and you got to accept within 2 minutes and now you don't remember your password. Don't let them be you. And there's going to be some quick decisions to make. So make sure you know what your priorities are in regards to what kind of program you want to go to and where you're going to be spending the next potentially 3 to 7 years. Some resources, I think every year a lot of these questions kind of come out both when people are choosing programs and then when they are going through the SOAP process. This is a nice website that's been recommended by the NRMP, which actually has a profile of a lot of the programs, and they let you know how many people, for example, are in-state, out-of-state, MD, DOs, even IMG, so you can find places that are IMG friendly if it's your category, or US IMGs, non-US IMGs, cities. So this is a good place to kind of figure out what place you're most competitive in statistically. So Thursday, the fourth and final round ends at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. The SOAP process then is officially ended an hour later at 9 p.m. And you saw that there was a small group of programs, small group of spots that are still available. After that, it's kind of no hold bar. So if you were not in the SOAP program because maybe you didn't click things at the right time, or maybe the SOAP process did not work for you, you are free to contact programs. You or your representative. There'll be a list of the places that are still open along with their contact information. So it's kind of like last call at the bar. You're like, hey, where are you going after this? Right. And it's kind of up to the program to decide if they do or do not want to fill those unfilled spots and how. So it's not up to anybody else. So that's something that you guys can figure out yourself, you and the program. The other things I want to be sure to talk about is self-care, whether you match on day one or not. It's been a long process for some people, a couple of years of medical school, for some people, more than a decade of trials and different obstacles going to untraditional track. But it's important to take care of yourself. Physician burnout is very high, and you don't necessarily have to be a working physician to burn out or worse. So it's important that you take care of yourself. Make sure you are in contact with your support system. You have people checking in on you, and to keep hope as well. Everybody has a different. Some people who are extremely successful now, if you talk to them, they'll tell you maybe it took a couple of tries in the match to finally match, or maybe they went through the SOAP process, or maybe they matched after the SOAP. Or maybe they even went and explored other opportunities outside of your bread and butter clinical medicine. So there's always hope out there. Sometimes, everyone's path is different, and you gotta keep faith for those of you who are religious that there's a path for you, and there's a reason for everything. So remember that. Then Friday is match day. Everybody, depending on where they're coming from, may do things a little bit differently. If you're still in medical school, there'll be medical school ceremonies. And they usually time it a little bit before noon when emails will go out, because if you decide not to go to your medical school ceremony, you'll just get an email home where you can go on the R3 system. Interestingly, every school kind of has different ways that they do this. Some places, they'll hand everybody an envelope, and at a certain time, everybody will just open it. Some places, they'll have everybody's envelopes in a random order, and they'll pass it out. And once you go down to, you'll be in a big auditorium, and they'll call each person to come down and get their envelope randomly by name, and then they'll put $1 in a bucket. And the last person to find out where they match, who has to go through all the anxiety, will then get all the money in there. So on a slightly personal note, I actually recorded my match day. This is a long time ago, 2013. So we had that process that I just described. Everybody, we're in a big auditorium, and you just call down, you say where you match, you put $1, and then you go.
Geology, University of Virginia. Jason Pan.
See the match, and then I open it up. I match, and the mic's going, and I'm jumping around in circles.
Microphone? Micro. Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh. Chinatown's gonna get a little more extroverted because University of Chicago Medical Center Pediatrics.
Try to be clever. Chi-Town in Chicago is going to get a little bit more extroverted. Chi-Town.
Thanks. What's your name, bro?
You guys can do whatever you want with your family. You can go do whatever you want to dance with. So that is what I wanted to go over with you guys. And I guess we can leave this some time now for questions.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Adebola Giwa, for a very good and well-rounded presentation that gives us and sets us in the mood for this week. Any question from anyone? I don't see any question in the chat box right now, but you can also raise up your hand to ask questions and we'll acknowledge that. Does anyone have any question, any clarifications, anything you want to ask our expert here, Dr. Adebola Giwa, about today?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for the presentation. I just want to find out when we can find this, maybe in a different link for future reference. Is there a place where we can find it?
Okay. Yes, we can. We have this recorded, so the ANPA Secretariat will have it, and then we can always share it if needed. and most likely we'll post it on the WhatsApp platforms that we have.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Alfonso. Any other question?
And with that too, in regards to reaching out to us, just to follow on. All the information to get more involved in ANPA can be found here. And as you mentioned, the education committee, if you have any questions, either you or if you have friends that are applying next year, you or friends who might be applying next year, you can choose the education committee. And then my information's there as well. You know, if you need references from some of the data and slides that I showed, or help with mentoring the mentors.
Thank you very much. I know my other co-chair, Dr. Rani Beki, is busy rounding. Dr. Rani, do you have a few minutes to say some final words before we wrap up today's presentation?
Yeah, I go ahead. I think you've done a phenomenal job, and I think Dr. Giwa has done an incredible presentation. Very, very, very comprehensive. I think our guys are ready. So let's see what next week shows. So nothing really much to add to what the very good job you did. Thank you for the job you do.
All right. Thank you very much, my co-chair, Dr. Rani Beki. And of course, we give a very huge thank you to our presenter, Dr. Adebola Giwa, who is always on point and ready to assist as much as possible. We wish everyone this week, and we want you to still stay actively engaged with ANPA. Even as you go into residency, we have the resident and fellowship arm of ANPA. We also have the DNPT for those that are still in medical school as well. So please stay engaged. We have some useful information for you. And of course, as we are giving back to you to make sure that the future generation gets very much engaged and involved, and then we also give back, we encourage you that as you go into residency and you get your good spots and you do a good job there, also assist us in getting other people into residency as well. Thank you, everyone. Wish you excellent success this coming week, and have a great weekend. Dr. Adebola Giwa, do you have any final things to say?
I think you said all the great stuff. The only other thing I have to add to it is, you know, we also want to share in your success. So please let us know how Match Week is going, especially if you match. You know, you can either say it in the IMG group or reach out to members, mentors, and ANPA to let us know how it went, so we can celebrate you as well, because it definitely gives us more passion to keep doing these kind of things when we see the positive impact that it's had in your lives. So please let us know about your successes, everyone that's here. And
Yeah, that's key. That's important. We want to celebrate with you. We want to rejoice with you, and we wish you very well. So let us know where you match and share your joy with us, and we'll be happy to celebrate you all. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great weekend, and wish you the best this week. Bye.
St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow, so hopefully the luck of the Irish will be with you as well.
That's true. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Thank you.